Energy barrier, advancing public sector energy efficiency through finance. For the panel session, I would like to invite our moderator, Mr. Brij Mohan, Senior Climate Change Officer, Asian Development Bank, and our panelist, Ms. Ananya Mukherjee, Senior Program Lead, CW Green Finance Center, Mr. Manya Ranjan, Co-Founder, 2.0 Capital, Mr. Pramod Kumar, Senior Director, AEEE, and Ms. Varsha Prasad Athalye, Executive Engineer, Environment and Climate Change, Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation. Thank you. Now I would hand over the stage to our moderator, Mr. Brij Mohan. Over to you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for joining this session today, where we were going to have discussion on advancing public sector energy efficiency through finance. I mean, I really would like to set the context for this session so that I think I can easily moderate the session, and I can ask specific questions to the panelists, esteemed panelists we have. So we all know that energy efficiency is the most economical or cost-effective, or I would say very available pathways for India's development, to meet India's development, also energy security, as well as to meet India's climate goal. That options is rightly, available pathways for us. Specifically, I just wanted to quote that India, if you look at the India public sectors, the opportunity is really significant. I just wanted to quote here, very recently, Bureau of Energy Efficiencies, they have come up with the estimates saying that municipal corporations in India, they consume 4% of the electricity annually, but they also present opportunity to save 23% of the, identified inefficiencies which we have in the system. For example, if I talk about the municipal water pumping sectors, the system also kind of, you already know, they operate on the aging pumping, efficient motors are there, and then we have a limited demand management. And the estimate also says that if we focus on a pump replacement, kind of a very small energy efficiency interventions, we can really save energy consumption by 20 to 40%. Similarly, if you talk about the space cooling, that is, I would say, it's kind of a very growing driver for the electricity consumptions going forwards, and estimates again reveal that if you take it the air conditioning alone, they also kind of and we do the energy efficiency intervention in the air conditioning alone, we can save about 2.2 lakh crores actually in a year. So that is the potential actually we are talking about. But I also would like to mention here that despite all these compelling technical and economic opportunities we do have, especially looking at the municipal corporation or the public system, the energy efficiency in the public systems continues to, especially facing some kind of a persistent barriers. For example, this could be definitely limited long-term finances available. I think we definitely going to hear on this from our panelists. I think they will share their experience on these persistent barriers or constraints we have. But we also have kind of a capacity constraints of, when we talk about the municipal corporations. So many constraints we do have in these areas. So I would like to say that today's discussion, it is very, I would say, timely and strategic, where we're going to have this panel discussions and also going to focus on discussing the innovative financing structuring models which can transform energy efficiency from the isolated projects to the bankable or scalable or replicable kind of a model or investment opportunity which we see in these sectors. So I definitely look forward to this discussions where I request my panelists that we should have a kind of a solution-oriented discussions, and then actionable kind of an insight we can receive from our panelists, so that which can definitely help advancing India's energy efficiency agenda. But before I reach out to my panelists, we're going to have one audience poll. We have a couple of question sets, but the structure is that we will ask one question number one for all the audience available present here, and then we will have a set of questions designed for our panelists. Can we have? So you please kindly. I mean, this is of course using Mentimeter. You can scan this QR code. The question will arrive there, and then we have multiple options to select as per your experience or as per your understanding on that particular issue. The question will be flashed after this. You will definitely see this question, but just let me explain you. So in these questions, we really wanted to seek your views, feedback, and your understanding. If so, as I mentioned in my remarks, that municipal corporations, especially if they see the energy efficiency is really critical for them and multiple avenues are also available to them, there is a no regret option when they need to consider the energy efficiency. And despite the proven technologies are also available in the market, why we are not like we cannot scale it basically. And we have given multiple options there. So you already have the questions, and like we already have received your response. Interesting. So let me just frame my questions pertaining to this specific questions which we have with the panelists. Okay. I would like to start with Ms. Varsha from BMC Brahm Mumbai Municipal Corporation. We all know the corporation is a resource rich actually, but I would like to seek your reflection on this audience poll. Of course, you can also see the result, but I really would like to hear from you. What are your experience when it comes to the real constraint to the municipal corporations like you?
Thank you. I think first option makes more sense. L1 procurement, that doesn't allow us to go for efficiency oriented procurements. And very true, projects also are not structured for finance, but we have mix of everything. As far as we are large corporation, resource rich, as you mentioned. So sometimes we do procurement based on the performance also, not directly energy efficiency, but for larger projects are procured through performance based evaluation, where only L1 is not considered, the technical capacity is also considered. But it depends upon the size of the project. Not every project is performance oriented. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Ms. Varsha, I just wanted to have a follow-up question. Of course, you might have been involved in so many pilot projects focusing on energy efficiency in the past. I really would like to hear from you if you can mention one or two examples where any energy efficiency initiatives where you've been successful, and if you really wanted to also highlight any initiatives where you really encountered any difficulties to implement it.
Yeah, actually, when we used to have traditional lighting solutions for all our establishments. So somewhere 10-15 years back, we started transition to CFL and now with LEDs. So the structured, we opt for that. Bulk procurement was done by the central agency, and each and every department has to buy from that central agency, and they have to replace the lighting solutions in their office. And this was a great success. Actually, we started way before this energy efficiency and everything was mandated. Second, all our street lights are LED now. So that's the second major project which we have undertaken. Apart from that, currently we have carried out walkthrough surveys at various municipal buildings like hospitals, schools, offices, auditorium. And simple solutions are being undertaken, like changing the fans. BLDC. So that is very low hanging fruit kind of a things. But there is certain areas like HVAC, which are there in hospitals. Hospitals are very critical establishments as far as government setups are concerned. So there, considering energy efficient cooling solutions is little tricky. There is a lot of scope for improvement in that area, but still we are finding that sector little difficult. And as far as pumping stations are concerned for fresh water supply as well as sewage treatment, we are quite working on a very energy efficient way, and regular upgradation are carried out. But this is all on, BMC funded kind of a thing. Yeah. That's all.
No, thank you so much. It's really provide a good insight, like which are the very, simple interventions where you can make progress and you can be successful also scaling it up. But there are some challenges where that, of course, the fraternity should be looking at it. Let me move it to Manya. Manya, of course, we really wanted to know your reflection first of all on the questions asked, and you all already seen the feedback which we received from the audience. But let me continue with my next question also. Like in the system, we have poorly kind of or aging monitoring systems available, right? And like based on your experience, and of course your organization also working on the digital monitoring part and IoT. So how we can strengthen these monitoring or digital monitoring portions so that we can have a bankability on these energy efficiency projects? If you can really highlight this using any of the examples where you have worked on, right?
Yeah, sure. No, thank you. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for the question. The first thought that came to mind when the screen flashed was, I wish I could take a photo of that and show it to my investors, because that's exactly what we are set up to do, right? I'll give you maybe a minute about 2.0 Capital. We are a climate financing platform. We are set up to provide innovative financing into the energy transition sectors. Today, we are focused on 4 broad interventions: solar, largely rooftop, battery storage, energy efficiency, and wastewater treatment. And our whole thesis is that there are a lot of good projects out there that require the right structuring for bankability. And there's a lot of capital out there that is chasing bankable returns. So can we set up something in the middle to route capital into bankable projects and work with customers and service providers to create more bankable projects, right? So in a way, that's exactly what this survey also threw up. The 2 points are absolutely relevant. I think the L1 procurement is a relic of the old era, where we always looked for the lowest cost option on the table. And this was largely set up in the product domain, and especially for products which are already stable. So everybody knows the price, there's no variability in terms of performance, and therefore you're incentivizing the race to the bottom in terms of the costing. But now in a projects and a service era, it's very hard to do L1 procurement because no offering are the same, right? So you have to do a little more structuring around projects to really compare them apples to apples and have the right dimensions to compare. Price is not the only one. Price is one of the dimensions. So I fully agree that L1 procurement has to go out, be replaced by a TCO level procurement. What option minimizes my TCO? Which means the capex might be 30% higher to begin with. The OPEX might be 90% lower year over year. But over a 5, 10, 15-year period, my TCO is 30% lower of the option where capex is still higher by 30%, right? So that's how we have to think about procurement, and if we have to do a good job of energy efficiency. And obviously the aspect around bankability, right? Too many projects are not structured in the right way. The contracts are not written in the right way. It's very one-sided contract. Enforceability is not provided. And which is why when you take it to a bank, if you take it to a financial institution, their IC will not allow, right? They can't come into that structure. And they will ask 10,000 questions, which then you can't go back to the customer and open the contract. So it just goes into that cycle. You have to compare this to the RE sector, right? Your PPA contracts are bankable, very, I would say very replicable. Every PPA contract looks largely the same. The terms are the same. The parameters can be plus minus, but the broad terms are the same. And therefore the scale is what we are seeing in that sector, right? So that's my long answer on this one. What you asked, Bridge, about the monitoring system, I think it's a very important point, because as we go from products to projects, right, and services, you have to really define what outcomes mean and guarantee those outcomes and have a very, very transparent and data-driven mechanism to really prove that we have delivered these outcomes. Otherwise, there's always mistrust in the system, which comes in the way of really scaling up of the sector. Right. So I think that is something that we strongly believe in as a platform, as a financing platform. We are building our own digital platform to help enable this. Because if you're not able to prove to the customer in real time, transparently, that what we promised is getting delivered, then there's no point trying to scale up in the sector. Right? So it's a very important piece that you asked about.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. I mean, I'm from EDB. I can tell you, of course, we really need to, at the end of any investment decision, we really need to assess what is the outcome of that particular project. But of course, if we don't have effective monitoring system in place, that will be very difficult for any financing institutions to provide finance, and then it will definitely impact on the bankability of these energy efficiency projects. So thank you so much for your highlights. Pramod, now, are you really surprised to see all that audience reflection on the questions? I mean, how you would like to rank all these four, options we had specific to that questions? And of course, from your perspective, I mean, you have very good understanding working with the municipal corporation as well as with the financing institutions. And from your perspectives, I mean, what is harder today? Mobilizing capital for the municipal level energy efficiency intervention, or it is finding municipalities, ready to absorb it?
Thank you, Bridge. First of all, thanks to the original speaker, Mr. Naim Kurubilla, whose absence gave me this spot. So coming to the survey response, I'm not surprised. And Manya has covered a lot of points already. I only want to add that, and also we are, in the process of debating this point, are we vilifying too much L1 procurement? Because what perhaps we have missed out over the years is L1 procurement was also based on two-stage procurement. If you're defining your technical requirements properly, ensuring that the performance parameters, life cycle, warranty, etc. are being already captured, then you are providing some level playing field already where technologies, good services can compare. So what perhaps has happened that for the sake of saving time or for the sake of reducing complexity, we do not emphasize enough on the technical requirement. We keep it bare minimum, and that's the problem which, in my view, L1 procurement has created. I'm not saying that we should not move towards the total cost of ownership or life cycle procurement. That makes absolute sense because of the innovation happening. There are innovations, no two products are comparable. But all I'm saying that even where municipalities or public authorities are struggling to go for a life cycle based procurement, there are enough options available in the L1 procurement itself. So let's try and first make progress there. And wherever it's possible for municipalities to adapt to TCO-based procurement, definitely that's something they should do. I think Varsha ma'am, you also alluded to that in your response. Now, one option I would have liked to see in the response, which Manya also alluded to, which I think is another barrier for energy efficiency uptake, is the lack of a proper project structuring. What we are doing in many cases, like we purchase appliances or cars for ourselves, we sometimes approach these projects with an engineering mindset, with an engineering construct. We are not thinking about creating a financial asset which can be bankable in nature. So the fundamental questions, in addition to, of course, the technical analysis, what kind of a solution you are getting, how much of a savings you will be getting, fundamental question, who is going to pay for it? How are they going to pay for it? Is there a prediction in the cash flow? Are the payment mechanisms secure enough for an investor, for a lender to come in and finance that project? And again, a lot of in the project design stage, emphasis is going up to 2 decimal places of how much savings kilowatt hour you can get, and ignoring some of these important parts, aspects, which will make a project truly bankable in nature. So coming to the question, Bridge, you said what's difficult? Getting municipalities who are willing to do these projects. Is that the difficult part? I think the difficult part right now is how to structure these projects. And if that awareness increases, I think we'll get more number of municipalities, will see lenders lining up, and investors also lining up, because everyone is looking for projects opportunities. People are here to do business, and not just for the sake of doing things. So yeah, that is something. The other thing I would also add to the list of challenges, and maybe what we should be thinking going forward. If we look at how municipal corporations have over the years built their services and assets, it was done from a grant-based asset ownership mindset. So they're used to, okay, let's procure this, it will get added to our asset base, we have the responsibility to operate it. I think time is ripe to also start thinking about how do you move towards performance-based service delivery models. And country had seen that in case of vehicles, for example. Many municipal corporations, many transport departments are not now purchasing buses anymore. They are saying we are buying mobility as a service. So that same mindset needs to also apply to water pumping systems or municipal operations. Street lighting is another example where we have seen a lot of this models. So that's my opening remarks.
No, thank you. I mean, from product to project approach, I really liked it. Definitely we will have more deliberation on that. Ananya, I'm coming to you now. And definitely, first of all, we'd like to have your opinion, reflection on the audience poll we have on this question number 1. But I really also wanted to add to it, because many municipalities, I mean, they have already experienced ESCO's model, right? But I mean, in your views, I mean, they've kind of a fear also losing control over their asset, right? If they're going to use this particular model, is there any kind of alternative contracting model which keeps that asset on the municipal books, right? Because Pramod also highlighted this kind of a concern, I mean, or the preferred option for the municipal corporations. Just wanted to have your views.
Thanks, Bridge. So I heard all my colleagues sitting here and all the panelists. I would call it a cocktail of constraints, actually. So we may start by fixing the procurement by the municipal corporations, and then we'll hit the aggregation wall, right? So there are all of these problems. I also personally feel that the bottleneck is project structuring. So if we are sitting in 21st century, we are talking about 21st century technologies, so energy efficiency should be considered something as, procurement of service. And it's not just a hard asset that we are buying. It's also all the performance that comes attached along with this hard asset. So apart from the 4 options that were given, there are a couple of other market barriers existing as well, like policy enablers, which talks about monitoring and verification protocols. Now, there's no standardization around it, right? We have very limited smart metering as well. So this also hinders the scalability, you see, and savings are invisible for banks. And when banks don't see anything, they don't fund that. So that I would like to, basically comment on the first part. Second part, you mentioned municipalities and ESCO models, right? I completely agree. Municipalities would not like variable payments. Banks also don't like variable cash flows, right? Annuity-linked models, guaranteed saving models could be some of them, which can talk about alternate contracting where the asset still sits with the municipalities. And, the O&M risk could be transferred to a service provider. We can largely call them servitization as models. These basically address things like something like, these savings which are projected, which are unknown. Instead, you start paying, you meaning the municipal corporations, they start paying a fixed annuity or a cost, which can be budgeted beforehand, right? And the O&M risks are basically transferred to the service provider. It could be anyone, be an ESCO, a third party, or an OEM. We can work that workaround, right? It's a third party essentially. What happens here is that essentially in an annuity-linked model, you are promised some sort of a performance behavior, right? And that performance need to be monitored as well. So we come back and we circle back again to how this needs to be monitored, what the monitoring and verification protocols are. Then there are guaranteed savings, as the name suggests, and most of the people would know here in this room what guaranteed savings as a model is. We also have something called as pay as you save, pay as you go. There are just so many models, right? It's the main context here is how the contracts are drawn between a municipality and the service provider so that the asset stays with the municipal corporation and the operation and maintenance is taken care by the service provider, while the municipalities, they actually reap all the benefits of a well-maintained equipment, which is working at its peak efficiency. This again ties back to monitoring, verification, smart metering. So if we do have something which is approved by the government, it actually builds a lot of trust with the municipalities and the financiers as well.
No, interesting insight, and definitely, Varsha ma'am, you would be very happy that we have plenty of models which you can definitely work and yeah, of course, and I can also help you finding these right model for PMC. I think we already have completed round one. Just wanted to ask my team if they can also flash. So in the second round, we're going to have another question for you. And I sincerely request your participation responding that another questions. Again, we have the link, Mentimeter link. You will find question and then again, you will find options and then your preferred options to be selected. So the question is very simple, actually, this one. So, I mean, we try to identify what are the single biggest constraint in adopting OPEX model, actually. So the options you can find there, we have like whether it is related to the ownership mindset, also annual budgeting rules are getting into in between, procurement rules are there, like again, fear of audits or, vigilance and other, and whether it's going to provide unreliable cash flow. Okay. So, interesting. So if you see the result, of course, I was talking to Ms. Varsha actually before the session, and she was also hinting out one of the option there. But let me just quickly ask, I mean, of course, the funding models are very critical. You already know, we heard. But while this OPEX model reduce upfront costs, that's for sure, of course, for the municipal corporations. But we often hear that it also faces some kind of administrative and like payment hurdles, right? So in your current administrative setup, right, would you prefer OPEX model? Of course, I mean, you can take BMC stand view, as well as a general, right, municipal corporations, if you wanted to also share your personal views for other municipal corporations.
Currently, OPEX models are not that favorite as on date. There are multiple reasons for that. First, I would like to answer Pramod's question about L1 procurement, where you mention about giving the technical specification and procuring. We Indians are very smart for doing desi jugaad. So even the technical specification are listed out. Same devices can be available in many avatar, and where they can guarantee efficiency during first 2 years, and after third year that starts declining. So L1 procurement still remains the challenge for energy efficiency. And for OPEX model, as Ananya currently actually rightly said, asset ownership has to remain with corporation. The main reason that we are the service provider for the citizens. So if that asset is not performing properly, see, there might be some cases like we have appointed a contractor for service-based services, I would say. And for some reason, if he stops performing, that contractor as a whole, not the whole system as such. So entire system is hampered because of that. But if the ownership remains with corporation, then it becomes easier for us to just to replace the contractor. So that is the main constraint why the OPEX models are not that favorite as on date. But for smaller projects, which are not that critical, OPEX models can be considered by various corporations, basically who are, corporations such as who don't have much of cash, upfront cash reserve or something like that. So smaller projects can be OPEX oriented, but not the larger ones, because the 24/7 running of such installations is very critical for the city. So the ownership has to be with the ULBs. This is my personal opinion about all these things, because we cannot be held responsible for somebody else's failure and the entire city cannot be suffered because of that. So that would be the main reason.
No, well understood. I mean, I buy your argument. Of course, being a municipal corporations, you really need to serve so many, the population at large. And for the critical services, definitely you wanted to have some kind of a control. But yeah, of course, we can look around like what are the solutions to also this specific issues which municipal corporations finding in difficulties to opting for the OPEX model, right? So, and as you rightly mentioned that municipal corporations would be really willing to opt for OPEX models if you find like some small projects where you will not find much responsibility towards the public service and all. But let me just move to Manya. Of course, first of all, definitely would like to have your opinion, your reflection on the response we received from the audience. But from your perspectives, like what is the single biggest internal constraint to adopting OPEX model? And what would make an OPEX contract financeable for you without, sovereign backstopping also, right? Yeah.
It's a very fundamental question, right, about the whole sector. And for me, the answer always lies in zooming out and looking at other places where this has worked, and then understanding why this has worked there, right? It's not that energy efficiency is the most complicated sector in the world. You have many more sectors which are much more complicated. Case in point, let's take oil and gas, right? In oil and gas, you have companies which focus on exploration. You have companies which focus on distribution. You have companies which focus on pipelines. You have companies, again, every role, every part of the value chain is clearly defined. And if anything, people look at very clear SLAs, right? What do I expect from you? What do you expect from me in return for the whole value chain to work? And again, the sector has been there for 150 years, huge sector, everything around that. But why does it work like that, right? Why is it so efficient when people are depending on each other? Because again, going back to the contract structures, going back to be very clear about expectations, going back to be very clear about what we deliver, right? So it's a two-way street. I think all of that helps the sector get there. So you look at any oil major, BP or Chevron or whatever, they have a very clear internal threshold, right? And again, I'm quoting out of context. So just for reference, their internal cost of capital would be sovereign debt, 6-8% today, in their local currency. For the most part, they would not do any project in-house, which has a rate of return of less than 30, 35, 40%. Right? So you can imagine that cost of capital being 6 to 8%, they will not take any project which has a rate of return of 40%. That is the delta that they put on, that is a premium that they put on their bandwidth. Right? If I am touching this project, it better pay well. And which is where you have companies like Schlumberger and Halliburton's who take on the project which have IRRs of 20, 25%. Why does it work? It's not that Schlumberger and Halliburton's are doing back-end jobs. They're not, and again, no job is bad, but they're not providing napkins or they're not providing cafeteria services, right? They're doing exploration, as core as it gets for these companies. But they have contracts, they have SLAs, they have penalties. Everything is clearly defined and it works, right? So if it works for that sector in such a good way, why doesn't it work for us? Today, as a financing platform, I go and pitch to a CFO. I know for a fact that their cost of capital is 11%. I might be charging them 12% for a fully baked, fully guaranteed lease solution, state of the art, top-notch OEM. The first question the person would say, why should I pay you more for the service that I can get for cheap? The question is that the 11 to 12% comparison is not apples to apples. It is apples to pineapples, right? Because the 11% for the CFO is just to buy the equipment. Then you have to put bandwidth to install the equipment, run the equipment, buy insurance, buy warranty, buy guarantees, AMC, CAMC, like you have a whole list of things that you have to get to. And if you price the misaligned outcome, because again, let's face it, when companies try to run these back-end assets themselves, they end up doing a bad job of it. So the outcomes don't come. There's a price to that as well. The person might be paying 20%, right, for a poorly performing project, whereas I was charging 12% against their cost of capital 11. This is where this whole thing goes for a toss, right? So what am I saying in all this? First point, be very, very clear about what is core to you. For a hotel, for this property where we're sitting, serving us, the customers, the front end, that is the core part of them. Not managing the back-end chiller, not managing where the lighting is coming, not managing what OEM they're using for lighting. Let them outsource that to somebody against a guaranteed contract. Right? Build that trust in the ecosystem. And again, it requires a leap of faith for the first one. But have the right contract structure, have the right outcomes and the right transparency and the right platforms to give all. And all of these things are there. I'm not talking about something which is 10 years down the line, right? We have these systems out there. All it requires, and which is why it's a very long-winded answer to come back to the survey, where the last question where this was unreliable cash flows, that hits the nail on the head. See, unreliable cash flow is a symptom, it's not the root cause. The root cause is not being clear about what you want. You have sanctioned a project without knowing what you want. You are not committing on your side of the bargain with regards to how many hours of runtime you are expecting from this equipment. And then you expect the service provider, the developer, to give you an exact savings of what can be delivered over a 3, 4, 5, 8 years period. It doesn't work like that. Right? So that is where I feel that we, as an industry, as an aggregate body, we can do a lot more. If we have to get that, if we say that this level is okay with us, I know it is not for any of us, it's a rhetorical question, then I think we are fine. But if we have to get this to the level and why these conferences are so important, then we have to solve for that, one way or the other.
Yeah, no, thank you. Quickly, just wanted to move forward to promote, I mean, regarding the same acceptance of OPEX model, but I just wanted to specifically ask, like, I mean, definitely you must have worked at a city level, and have you seen any city successfully kind of a ring fence energy saving within a department, right? And what institutional trick made it possible? If you can really highlight your views on this.
Thank you. I don't recall, except for one example, our president, Dr. Satish, is here, and he was part of structuring a project, ESCO project in Gujarat, where the savings coming out from the ESCO project, they need to be ring-fenced. If they're going into the common pool, then again, drawing back money from that pool to pay to a service provider becomes very difficult. So how you are going to ring fence the savings? So the response also that we saw of unreliable cash flow. Now I'm puzzled. Municipal water pumping systems, wherever we have seen, they run 24/7. the savings are going to be as predictable as possible. We talk about municipal buildings, again, the occupancy pattern you see, it's a, 9 to 5 or 10 to 6. So the savings can be as predictable as possible in my view. Of course, there could be some fluctuations, but the unreliable cash flow is, in my view, because of the lack of ring fencing. How you are going to make sure that those savings are verified, the monetary equivalent of those savings are kept in an account, which the authorities are able to say, okay, we are using savings from that account and giving it back to the service provider. The other thing I want to briefly touch upon, why are we even discussing this topic? Ma'am, you are the richest municipal corporation in India. So for you, perhaps procuring things and spending manpower to maintain service might be easier. But the whole thing was, as the city's urbanization is increasing, traditionally municipal corporations have relied on budgetary allocation. That was not sufficient. Then the manpower is not sufficient to maintain and ensure that there is a service level reliability. So the OPEX models were thought of as a response to that kind of a situation. It addresses the issue of investment. It addresses the issue of proper maintenance. It addresses the issue of, providing right level of service delivery. All of that helping municipality in reducing the cost, as well as, making sure that the citizens are delighted with the right level of services. So if cost minimization is the requirement, then we should be thinking about how to do that. And I would also like to add, when we are structuring the projects, although the name of the session is energy efficiency, we should look at all options, give all options to the service providers, do efficiency, do demand side management, try and optimize the electricity prices if the operations can be shifted. So Brij, you asked, we have seen some municipal corporations who are paying penalty because of poor power factor. They are paying excess charges because they are not optimizing their schedule as per the time of day tariffs. So all of those options, then there is a possibility to source renewable electricity, cheaper electricity to meet your demand. Why don't we bundle all these three things together, make it a part of the OPEX package or service? So that's the second point. And I totally echo what Manya said. If all of this is structured in a proper contract, there are enough precedents in the power sector, in the utility sector, in the cooling heat sector, where such models are performing well. And ma'am, with same or high level of reliability, what maybe the municipal utilities or government-owned power utilities were delivering.
No, very interesting, and definitely we should be looking at those areas also. But Ananya, I just wanted to also touch base, on the same questions, of course. As our panelists mentioned, that OPEX model, they promise on the pay from saving, right? But Pramod also mentioned the saving kind of a sit on some time on paper, but while payments requires cash. So where exactly does this model break down in Indian municipal corporations or municipalities, I would say? Of course, we also discuss about that ring fencing it, kind of a saving so that the save fund can automatically be delivered to the schools. But what are your views? What could be the solution there?
Interesting question. So again, the panelists did mention, how service contracts could be, useful, right? And they have to be packaged well. Manya touched upon some points, Pramod touched upon some points. But you see, for municipalities, the budgets are fixed annually and beforehand. It's everything is happening beforehand. When we talk about savings, it's post facto, right? So they are not able to actually put that in their own budgetary requirements. So I think the model breaks at the budget appropriation stage, firstly, because it's the lack of realized cash flows. These haven't been realized. It's not a hard cash. Lower bills do not directly translate to, for a municipal corporation, let's say, a spendable surplus. It is actually some cost that they have avoided. So it becomes really difficult for them to pay then eventually to any service provider, to an ESCO, right? So either they bring in a line item in their cash books that this is for an ESCO, and it is actually apportioned in the beginning of their budgetary decisions. So the Treasury Department is supposed to do that. If they're not doing that, then maybe about ring fencing, which Pramod was also talking about, right? So I can think, top of my head, I can think of two options. One is an escrow, which is a notional escrow. You don't have to go ahead and create a new bank account. There should be a very well-defined, established baseline energy demand. If that's not defined, you can't benchmark against what are the savings or not, right? So once that baseline has been defined by the municipality doesn't directly has to go and pay the discoms. They can actually divert it via this escrow, and the escrow actually pays the reduced bill, and whatever is the saving, it gets paid to the escrow. Right. So I'm making it sound very, very simple. It's not that simple on paper when you actually create a facility like escrow. The second one is a special purpose vehicle. These are more complex facilities. It's only for if you have a project in place, that's when an SPV comes into play, right? And SPVs can have their own cash flows. They are their own legal entities. And if I'm not wrong, Smart Cities Mission, they have also created modalities around SPVs at citywide level projects. So these could also be leveraged for these type of exercises, right? I'll take a pause.
No, thank you, because we also have very short time to, close our session, because we should not be look at the, we are standing, between lunch and all. So, but quickly, thank you so much. Now, I think it's time to also give floor to the audience. Definitely, we can take one or two questions. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think there have been many good takeaways from the four speakers plus the chair. My concern is that, of course, we have heard so much about the regulatory complexities, project restructuring, engineering mindset, and lack of standards and specifications. But my concern is that while we are talking about the restructuring and engineering mindset, should not the ULB, urban local bodies, which are acting as a pass-through agency, should be restructured? That means institutional restructuring rather than engineering restructuring or tender or contracting restructuring. Thank you.
You wanted to take, please?
It's a very complex question. Restructuring ULB would be a hell lot of a task, actually. And so can you just tell me specifically what do you exactly mean by restructuring ULB? You mean to decentralize the work or something of that sort?
Decentralize, not only just a simple decentralization, but I think both decentralization plus more wider. For example, the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act says about the ULB should have a metropolitan region as planning area, so or development area. So why it is not happening? Of course, what I said that it should not continue to be colonial mindset, pass-through agencies, that some officials come, some engineers come, some projects come, and we are very project-centric, and ultimately the system does not change. Systemic changes.
Sir, it's a very good idea, and all I can say that in case of power sector, we have seen how discoms have started appointing franchisees. That was the whole purpose, to try and reduce loss reduction and improve the operational efficiency. So it's a definitely good idea, but I'm not in a position to comment whether and how soon the country can adapt to this kind of.
But I just wanted to, of course, we respect that point, but just wanted to highlight one point and wanted to hear from you. Can we also focus on building the capacity of the municipal corporation so that can reduce all these, stigmas we have? Can we really focus on building the capacity, and can we kind of try to reduce all these bottlenecks?
Capacity building can be one of the solution, but thing is that all government agency, not only ULB, we have some certain set of rules, certain set of circulars, and we have to follow that. So sir is right, we need to change something upside down, but we don't know how much time it will take. But yes, capacity building and changing the mindset of the administration, that would very well help.
Just adding 10 seconds to this. I think over the past 15, 20 years, country and Bureau of Energy Efficiency, all agencies have done a tremendous job to at least say that this is a problem area. There are opportunities, there are technologies. Many municipalities we work with, they know that, okay, how to measure the inefficiencies, what are the options, etc. So that kind of a learning is there. In the next 10 years, we are looking at Viksit Bharat, objectives. The focus should be, okay, how do we then convert them into projects? If you have the capital, excellent. If you don't have the capital, let's not, make it as a deal breaker. Try and innovate, because every time we are, losing in this process, it's a loss of precious national resource.
Yeah, one more question, last one, please. If anyone would like to ask to our panelist. Yeah, that gentleman.
Hi, this is Rohan from AEEE. So if we look at other countries like the UAE and Saudi, we see that there's a lot of retrofit using super ESCOs and ESCOs. For example, UAE has promised to retrofit 3,000 buildings by the year 2030. So they are largely being done through guaranteed savings model. My question is to Varsha ji. Would BMC, feel more trust if the retrofit was being done by the guaranteed savings model? And if so, what can, be done to build more trust in the system?
Rightly said. Actually, the sad part is saving is not calculated or recorded. That is the biggest problem, because something can be managed which is measured. Unfortunately, we are not measuring what is the saving we are achieving through energy efficiency or just by maintaining the power factor. We do maintain power factor unity at most of our critical bigger installations, but we are not translating into how much saving money wise. We are not doing that. But I would like to share something. BMC has come up with climate budgeting, where we do analysis of our budget and we try to correlate it with our Mumbai Climate Action Plan. So there, one of the sector is building and energy. So now we have started collecting data about how much energy efficient, how much systems are how efficient, and what is the cost saving about that. So once we get that data, it might create some confidence among the agencies and the administration that we can go for such type of models.
Yeah, Manya, you would like to take this because, of course, as Varshaji mentioned, that monitoring the data is very critical. And you touch upon this point also, that monitoring is very critical when it comes to, looking at your outcome of your investment or project.
No, absolutely. I fully agree with the question. And one of the biggest issues for energy efficiency is demand aggregation, right? And if we can get together to create demand like this, 3,000 buildings or some n number of installations, it creates the demand certainty, creates visibility on the part of the developer to invest. The ecosystem grows as a result of that. So I fully agree that mechanisms exist to enable such provisions.
No, thank you. So I really again would like to thank our esteemed panelists for their insight and having this very enriched discussion on this topic. With audience permission, let me just conclude this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you to our panelists for such a constructive and engaging session. Now I would request the panelists to please come forward for a group photo. Thank you. So now we'll break for the networking lunch. Lunch is served in the dining area, and I would also request everyone kindly don't bring the food plates inside the hall. Thank you. And also a kind request, if you can reassemble by 2:15 for the next session. Thank you.